Welcome, everyone. My name is Emily Cabbage. I am the Director of Marketing at NAFA and wanted to welcome you here today for our Advisor Ambassador Program. Now, I know I didn't mean to do a little bait and switch on you, but our scheduled presenter, Derek Sheets, actually just came down with the flu and was not feeling up to presenting, unfortunately. But lucky for you guys, we've got Brian Haney, who is a financial whiz, as you can see from his name on his Zoom, his new Zoom name, I guess. But Brian is a longtime NAFA member. He is a decorated financial industry veteran. He's been a $1 Million Roundtable qualifier since 2009, MDRT Core of the Table since 2014. He was announced NAFA's 440 in 2017, as well as NAFA's Diversity Champion in 2018. He's very active in the DC area chapter of NAFA, and we are very thrilled to have him here with us today. So Brian, without anything else, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to cover a lot of ground. So what I would just ask is that as I'm going through things, if you have questions, do me the favor, throw them in the chat. That way you don't lose them, but that way I'll be sure to cover things by the time we get done. And certainly, obviously, we'll leave plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So I'm going to dive right into this because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And topically, hopefully this is what everybody wants to hear about. How do you just crush it out the gate? And by the way, even if you're several years to many years into your professional world, I think I'm going to cover some things that will still be helpful to you. And also walk through the good, the bad, and the ugly from my own experiences, because I've been fortunate, I've done a lot of things that have worked, but I also have done things that haven't. And so you'll hear from the front lines on both sides of the equation. And yeah, as Emily mentioned, I've been in the industry a while. Just a couple of additional data points. I started in the banking, in the private wealth part of the industry before creating and kind of navigating to an independent practice. So I've kind of seen a lot of the lens of the financial services experience as well. And I think that that's been very helpful to me, and it certainly helps us in our practice now. I also have my own podcast. So at some point, if you're looking for a nice show or you want some content that you might be able to share with clients or prospects, definitely take a look at the show. We're on all the major channels. All right, shameless plug over. Here's what I'm going to go through. What worked? We're going to hit it hard and heavy, and hopefully you'll be able to take some very practical things away and apply them right away for things that worked. Definitely help you avoid and steer clear of some landmines. And then at the end, and this is where hopefully you'll have an ability to take some kind of notes or what have you, but the real keys to unlocking success. Because whether it's early, whether it's late, no matter what, if you're not doing several or all of these things, then you're not going to achieve your fullest potential. And I want that for everybody. And then Q&A. All right. So what worked for me? The first thing that really helped fuel my early success was developing what I call a prolific process. Now, the word process can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. So I want to give some clear definition as to what that is. A process is essentially how I can create a consistent experience for everybody that starts as a prospect and then hopefully navigates and becomes a client. But that means throughout that prospecting kind of spectrum, I'm taking everyone through something consistently. So I'm not making it up depending on where the opportunity comes from, or, I have a different kind of experience point depending on who I'm talking to. Now, one of my early mentors just really reinforced to me that you have to do the same thing with everybody to maximize your opportunities for success. So the process not only helped me stand out as a professional, because the reality is most people, not just in our industry, but especially in our industry and in other sales industries, do not maintain a consistent process. We just kind of A lot of times salespeople are naturally gregarious and good at trying to start conversations, but then when it actually comes down to, all right, how do I, what's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4? How do I ask all the right questions? How do I make sure that I ask all those questions each and every time? How do I engage someone, and how do I lead them to a decision point so that they'll either decide that they want to work with me or that we need to move on? And if that's not something you feel you have, or you're still working to develop, my biggest encouragement is that you absolutely want to develop that, spend some time working on it. And I'm happy to, at the end, share some tips about where you might go to refine that, or to find where you can start developing that process if you don't have it. But I mean, even in my first year, because I had a good process in the banking industry, I had a 70% close ratio. That has only gotten higher since then. So if you're not batting at 70%, then please take some medicine from me and say, yes, I get it. I want to get a good process, because that is so critically important. The right approach. Well, what does that look like? That's when I realized what my job actually was. And here's an insider tip. It might not be what you think it is. My job was not to be the best dressed, most likable, or most knowledgeable person or financial professional, even though hopefully maybe I'm still at least partially all of those things. But no, my job was very, very, very simple. I needed to ask the right questions to allow people to sell themselves. That's it. To really boil it all the way down from a skill set standpoint, I need to approach every opportunity. And this process ties into the functional, what was I really doing? But I was focusing on, how do I get to connect with and understand my clients and prospects best? How do I get them to open up in a manner that's really vulnerable and transparent? How do I connect with them emotionally? How do I help them maybe see themselves differently? If money is probably one of the highest rated points of stress, it's the #1 reason why couples split up. It's the #1 reason for divorce. It is a significantly taboo, highly emotionally charged topic. So it's not easy to get people to really feel comfortable sharing all of the truth and the details of their financial world. But if you ask the right questions and you listen with empathy, you'll be surprised at how successful you are at having really good conversations. And then once people are sharing with you and they feel understood and heard, that right there is probably 80% of what you need to be doing. And then the last thing was people. And what does that mean? I got the right people to help me very early on in my career. I didn't try to just put a bunch of stuff together and do it on my own. I recognize that I will be exponentially more powerful when I have partners that are investing in my own success. So I developed several key early referral sources and really worked to have a very well-rounded group of centers of influence that gave me an edge early on. And essentially, I had kind of a branding and marketing team that I had developed. So I wasn't the only person telling my story to my target audience. I had other people doing that as well. And I know we all here, we need to be good at referrals. So I'm going to get into and share with you the secret to being really good at referrals, because that too might not be what you think. So process, approach, people. If you nail these 3 things, I guarantee you will see much greater levels of success than if you focus on other things. To not do these things and to focus on a lot of other things, you might have mixed results. But I guarantee if you nail these 3 things, you can achieve MDRT level and beyond. All right, now the bad, and in some cases the ugly, right? Things that did not work. So there's a lot of lead generation systems and marketing firms and all that kind of stuff. And certainly, if we don't have opportunities, or if we don't feel like we have enough of a natural market, or as we're trying to scale up, we're trying to find new people to connect with and talk to and engage with, If we don't have that kind of a good pipeline, then certainly a lack of leads will lead to a lack of success. So I can't say that, you know, getting in front of the right people is not a critical part of our success. Obviously it is. We can be the best person in the world, but if we don't have anybody to see, we're not going to go anywhere. But I would absolutely let you know that the vast majority of lead generation systems, options, especially a lot of the ones in the digital marketplace, are maybe at best a 50-50 flip of the coin. And I've tried a handful of them. I've tried ones that, you know, targeted particular opportunities like annuity leads, life leads, all this kind of stuff, and they're everywhere. So the reality is, if you're considering this, the first thing that I would encourage you to do is make sure you have a really clear understanding as to how they go about putting somebody in front of you. What are they saying? How did this person arrive at the idea that they should be talking to you as a professional? Because sometimes it's not even what they say it is. You know, oh, well, we put something out there and they clicked asking for more information. Well, wait a minute, what does that mean? Right? Or maybe they just found, you know, they've just collected together a bunch of information and they've done some data aggregation to kind of systematically say, okay, these are the people that, based off of, you know, kind of a systematized approach of profiling, we're going to say are leads. Right. So I don't want to say all lead generation opportunities are bad. I've just had very little to virtually no real consistent success with so many of those generators out there. So just go in with eyes wide open, and hopefully if you do a couple other things better in terms of what I'm going to talk about later, like the secrets to success, you won't have to rely on a lead generation platform, software, et cetera. Or if you do, it'll just be gravy. It won't be your main source of opportunity. Wrong tactics. Okay. This is really about any of the times I deviated from that approach and that process that I was telling you about. So, you know, when I got out of sync with, you know, who I was and staying true to making sure I walked opportunities through this consistent model approach, and also pursuing things that didn't fit my brand, because in our industry, there's a ton of great people that will speak and talk. You go to conferences, you go to NAFA events, and people are wonderful at sharing what has helped them be successful. So there's a ton of great ideas out there. It can be challenging, though, to really pick the right ones off the shelf, because sometimes it almost seems like you need to try all these things. And clearly, if somebody's standing up here and saying, this is what worked for me and look at how successful I am, it almost feels like it's a natural assumption. Oh, well, I should try that too. Well, maybe yes, and maybe no. Same thing about looking at lead generation opportunities. You want to look at marketing and business development tactics that are going to really fit you, fit your brand, fit your practice, fit your personality. If it's a bit of a stretch, or if it takes you way outside your comfort zone and you feel like you're almost having to, you know, become a different type of professional, then maybe it's not the best approach for you. So really, taking the wrong tactics will also not have great results. So not to suggest that you shouldn't stretch yourself as a professional, but, you know, I'll give you a very tangible example. There was, when I was at one of the early stages in an agency, you know, we were having some sort of a sales blitz campaign. And, you know, one of the sales managers was like, hey, we're all going to go do donut drops at local businesses that we profiled that we think, you know, would be interested and open to talking to us about what we do. So a bunch of us said, hey, why not? Sign up. Donuts are cheap. We'll absolutely do it. Walk around. And obviously this was pre-COVID when, you know, you can do that kind of stuff. And I'll be honest, I think I just spent very little money giving away a lot of free donuts, because I think maybe there was one opportunity. It just didn't really work. And the reality of it was, I knew in my gut before I even said yes to it, I was like, I don't really know if this is a good idea. But, you know, I was willing to give it a shot, and it didn't work. And it also, I think, could it have worked? Maybe, but it wasn't a fit. And the reality was, my time, not just the money, but my time would have been better spent figuring something else out that would have worked. So just be really mindful, whatever you're going to try to do, make sure it's really a good brand fit. And don't feel like you have to do something just because somebody else did it and was successful with it. If it doesn't work for you, it's okay not to try it. Talking too much. Yes, I'm married for wonderfully 17 years, and my wife will absolutely tell you I can certainly carry a conversation and almost entirely by myself. So, like I said before, the process part, my job is not to talk. My job is to ask questions and listen. And listen how? Effectively. Listen with empathy. I don't want to just listen until I can pick up on something so I can say something really cool and cliche, right? I don't want to listen just so I can answer more strategically. I want to listen with one goal, not making that person a client or getting them to say yes, but making sure that I understand where they're coming from. So if in moments you're finding that you're trying to present too much, or really the balance of the conversation is disproportionate in your favor and not your client or prospects, I would safely tell you you're out of bounds. To be much more strategic at listening, and don't feel like it's going to be your presentation that's going to wow somebody into working with you. It's going to be your ability to connect and really have a meaningful, connect on an emotional level and on an understanding level that's really going to move the needle faster and further than if you do it otherwise. So don't talk too much. Just sit back, be willing to have long pauses, awkward silences. You don't always have to be the first person to say something. Have the right balance when it comes to that. And lastly, what doesn't work is we don't have to have all the answers, because guess what? We don't, right? Nobody has all the answers, and people aren't really necessarily looking for that. Yes, do we have to, at some point, answer their questions, their concerns, or guide them into making either a purchasing decision or into a relationship? Absolutely. But thinking that, we're trying to solve someone's problem, usually too soon in the process, is one of the tactics that you can get things thrown off track. Or presuming we know what the problem is and being wrong. Maybe that's the other side of where being an answer man or woman is not a good idea. Every client, even if I know and I'm pretty confident and I know and I'm highly likely of being right, no matter what, I push that aside and I sit down with every prospect with the same mentality. It's one mentality. I'm Columbo. Well, that's a pretty old show. I pretend and really mean it. I don't know what your issue is. My goal here is to understand it. And that's what I channel all of my energy into, making sure I really understand where you are coming from, because that way I don't put my presumption and my framework onto somebody and have the chance that I'm wrong, that I misread something or that I don't understand. So don't feel like you have to have answers, just feel like that you have to connect. That's got to be the real goal. Okay, that was a lot of time on what did not work. Hopefully you got something out of that. Now, what are the keys to ridiculous success? All right, take notes, because I'm going to cover a lot of ground here, but these are really significantly important to understand. Number one, develop the right brand. Especially in a digital economy, you need to stand out from the crowd, because the financial services industry, like many others, has been disrupted, and it's much harder for us as professionals to meet our audience, because so much of what is happening is we're pushing everything out to people, so that way the consumer is really in the driver's seat. And there's a DIY solution for optically almost everything, right? I can push button, get mortgage. I can push button and get Amazon to drone something to me. So the average person can really, the optics are, oh, I should be able to kind of do all this myself. So before they even get to the place where they're like, maybe I do need some help, because a lot of people obviously do, you've got to be able to be already present and available and kind of in their sphere before they're willing to really connect with you. So how do you do that? Because people do not buy our stuff, they buy us, right? So as a practitioner, we need to stand out as a potential resource to our target audience, which means we need to develop brand recognition in our niche markets. And I'll talk about some of the tactics there, but this is an example where I was able to be interviewed in an association magazine. So I had a little feature because I spent time developing relationships with that magazine, that publisher. And so sometimes it's not about us, doing a lot of email marketing or Facebook posting or whatever. Sometimes we really want to be smart with where we show up, and we just want to develop the right relationships so that way somebody else spotlights us. And that can be far more of a catalyst for developing opportunities than if we're just trying to kind of do this broad brush buckshot approach where we're just trying to spray a message that's as generic as possible to hopefully land on as many people as possible. The right brand is twofold. It's standing out as who you are as a practitioner the right way from all the other sea of practitioners, and also standing out for and in the right places, because you don't need to be the right answer for everybody. You want to be really key with who are your ideal clients and get a really good definition of that. So that way you're only trying to approach those people. You're not trying to approach everybody else. So narrowing down your focus, that's the two signs of a really good brand. And I'll leave you with this idea. When you think of brands like Disney or brands like Starbucks, what do you think they really sell? So most people say Starbucks sells expensive coffee that might not be the best. Or Disney sells, $1,000 experience of you going down to Orlando or California and being really hot and tired, but your kids are going bonkers, right? Well, maybe not, because Starbucks went out to not sell coffee. Starbucks was founded on the principle of what they developed was a third space. They wanted to create a third space because what they saw and recognized in the marketplace was that there was people who had their work persona and had their home life persona, but they didn't necessarily have a great social gathering place in between that wasn't maybe a bar or a restaurant. So they developed their entire brand and system around being a third space where people can not just have coffee or a little treat, food or whatever, and connect, socially engage, work, etc. And sure enough, it has persisted and consisted ever since. So that's what they did. That's how they built their entire, brand network, and they've been extremely successful. Disney, again, they created an experience. Now, yes, they have bought everything and they own everything. They run the world, but they developed an experience. When you show up, you are treated with an experience that has a 78% chance that you are going to go back and repeat that experience. They have the highest percentage of repeat business as most of the brands out there in the marketplace. And so it doesn't matter how cheesy or corny it is, especially if you have kids, you'll be writing that check more than once in your life. So those two examples, again, I'm pointing them out because it speaks to what we need to be focused on. Is we need to stand out for our experience, and we need to be standing out with the right people. All right, that was a lot on brand. Targeting the right people, I kind of already said it, so good, I can go faster. You need to have not just a detailed demographic persona of people between the ages of 30 and 55 in this kind of an affluence, in this kind of geography, maybe in these types of industries. Like, that's all good, that's important, that's just a place where you start. What you really need is you need to have a digital buyer persona. You need to take the demographic personas and put them into the digital marketplace. Where are the people that you have the highest likelihood of helping and who are your ideal clients? Where are they? What groups are they a part of? What platforms are they on? Are they Facebook people? Are they Twitter people? Are they Instagram? Are they LinkedIn? Where can you go and meet them in this digital space? That way you can be where they are and you can start to engage in the right places. That's so critically important. And there's so much metadata out there that'll allow you to build that type of a buyer persona, but you need to have it in order to be really effective. Because like I said, in the digital marketplace, it's a sea of stuff out there and it's very easy to get lost. So you want to start standing out, you need to meet people where they are. And guess what? In the digital economy, we make it easier than ever to meet that person. Facebook used to advertise for their groups, and you've probably seen their advertisements on TV. They've been in, the Super Bowl, where they're, telling people about. This one was, a daddy taking his daughter out to a ball game, and he was on this Facebook group for all these daddies with daughters going to the, I think it was the Yankees, Mets, or what have you. Another one was with Basset Hounds, where this guy went out to the regular dog park and saw all these weird looking dogs and felt awkward. And then they cut to the scene, and this Basset Hound is like gleefully in slow motion running out to the ocean side. And there's 20 other Basset Hounds that all come in, and it's like a Shangri-La moment. All of those advertisements are saying, hey, Facebook groups gets it. There's a place for you. If you're the person that loves Basset Hounds, we've got a group for you. We need to take and adopt that mentality and find those groups that we really, really, really want to connect with and spend most of our energy building market share, building brand, marketing to, engaging with. That's where we want to concentrate our time. We don't want everybody else. We just want the right people. I already said it, meet them where they are. If you don't know where they are, figure it out. And once you do, then you need to start pulling them into a relationship with you, not blasting out some sort of a message from your vantage point that you hope entices them to connect. You want to kind of have conversations. You want to create an inbound marketing experience. You want people to want to follow up. Hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, check out this free ebook. Or, how can you start to meet people where they're, invite them into a conversation and get them more interested in you, rather than putting up things that, hey, life insurance is great or retirement is great, et cetera, because people do not like being talked at. They like to be invited into a conversation. Elevate your expertise. Here's again, people are not looking for generalists. They're looking for experts. So you want to, part of your brand development means you need to stand out as an expert. How can you do that? Maybe you don't feel like you are an expert. That's okay. Compared to the general public, you already are. You've got licenses, you've got securities, you're further along the curve than most people are. So you don't have to worry about having 28 different credentials. You can still stand out and be of value. Now, how do you become an expert? This is where you want to take off your financial professional hat and put on your PR and media relationships hat. Public relations, media relations is all about finding ways to go into the world and be positioned by others. So this looks like, maybe you need to try to pursue and develop some relationships with local media or television personalities. Or a great place to go is in the podcasting world, where you don't necessarily have to start a podcast like I did. You can start to connect with people that are looking for guests, because there's a lot of podcasters wanting expert guests. So you want to try to spend some time being able to be a resource to others, because then once you develop a few of these key relationships, that's going to enhance your brand significantly. So I've spoken now 2 years in a row at a major, at FinCon, which is a huge community of podcasters and bloggers and financial media folks. And, again, that was intentional, because it was an opportunity for me to elevate my brand and to be very, very visible across a wide landscape of people that then might turn around and say, hey, I want you to be on my show, right? So what does that need to look like for you in your markets? Who can you form some relationships with? Because if you can, kind of elevate that piece, or if you can put out an article or help a journalist write theirs and just interview you, that can go a lot further than just sending out a bunch of emails. So try to find a way to elevate your expertise. And at the same time, develop brand ambassadors. So this is all about centers of influence and cross promotion. So guess what? All of our referral source partners and maybe market partners, we're all trying to probably find clients. You might have more opportunities to cross market than just trying to develop your own stuff. So I've been intentional. I have gone to partners, centers of influence, and especially people that have shows. And I'm like, hey, let me be on your show. Or, hey, why don't we put together a joint workshop or a webinar? Or, what can I do to help you do what you're already doing, which is putting on their own content, right? That's one of the fastest ways to improve your brand and elevate your profile, because what do you get out of this? You get the amplified value of somebody else's existing network. So if we're all trying to be better at content marketing, don't feel like you have to invent the wheel and do it all yourself. Go to people that have content and support them and find meaningful ways to plug in, and they become brand ambassadors for you, and develop some good relationships. I have some very good relationships with people that produce content that don't necessarily, and some financial coaches are strategic partners of mine. So I have I've gone beyond just traditional CPAs, attorneys, that kind of stuff, to really help enhance my personal brand and my professional brand, because that was the key to maintaining long-term success. Is that the brand can't just be a blow up, blow in, blow out. You want to continue to enhance and augment and be seen this way as a long-term viable professional. And then lastly, systematize the heck out of everything. So especially when we're so focused on sales, sometimes that means we're not that great at behind the scenes work that is necessary to not just bring a client in and get them going, but to maintain them over time. So just bottom line here, make as many things for yourself as repeatable and as predictable as possible, from model work week to taking the same process approach to tracking activities, leveraging a CRM. Everything, what you can automate, you should, because it's going to just free you up to devote your time to all of the things that you really need to be concentrating on. And it's the best way to make sure that you have this consistent back-end experience that doesn't expose you, because lack of service can cause people to leave as fast as you got. So you just want to button at both ends of the equation in order to really stand out and continue to be successful long-term. Questions, comments, concerns, needs, desires, longings, or considerations?
Thank you, Brian. Hang on, let me get my camera turned off here. Well, thank you so much. Great presentation. Really, I don't know, just every time I hear this, just that whole idea of branding yourself and getting that, I'm trying to unpin you here, but creating that brand is just so important for people in our industry, and finding that niche. And it's just a great place to get started when you're building your career, building your book, and prospecting for clients. Having that brand is just so important for that. So again, I just appreciate your insights. Is there anybody have any questions? Feel free to excuse me, use the chat feature, or you can unmute yourself and ask Brian any questions. Okay, well, no questions. So with that, I will invite you guys to come back again. Big thank you to Brian for stepping in for Derek, who had the flu. Very much appreciated. And then we will have our next session on the 26th of this month. So looking forward to seeing you guys back, where we have Jose Rodriguez joining us and telling you his story and about how he got started in the industry as a second career. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.